Hello and welcome to a nice casual video where I'm going over the map of Hyrule I've made for Winds of Eternity, and it's one of the things I'm most happy about the game is this overall world map, because I've counted tile by tile to make sure that everything fits together. So if you go up a certain number of tiles on one map, you will go up a certain number of tiles on a corresponding adjacent map. And that's probably super unnecessary, and probably no one would ever notice or care. But it's something that was important to me, and I just want to show how many games I've referenced with this map of Hyrule, because it's an original map. It's not based directly off any other map from the series, but I've taken a lot of inspiration from many of the different games. So we'll go through each of them one by one to show what each game contributed towards making my own version of Hyrule. So the first one is, of course, the first game in the series, and this is actually probably one of the most significant designing ideas, at least in the beginning. So the main idea here is that we have a similar coastline to the first game, wherein we have a south-facing and an east-facing coast, just like in Zelda 1. And this section up here, Eastmost Peninsula, this I decided to directly port into the game with this section. And as a reference to the first game, we have money-making game there, the gambling game from the first game. And then there's a secret north of it as well that you find in a similar way to Zelda. And then much later in the game, when you get the boat, you can go to a secret in the south, just like you can use the raft in the original game. And then, of course, next to the eastmost peninsula, taking up the northern part of the map, we have the mountain. So this is maybe the most recurring location in the series. It's a toss-up between that and the Lost Woods. I guess maybe Kakariko Village too. But at the Death Mountain, most games it is in the north. So that's taken pretty directly from Zelda 1, Zelda on the NES. But most games also take inspiration from Zelda 1 and put Death Mountain in the north. So that's it for the first game in the series. The next we have Zelda 2, one of my personal favorites. And there's very little directly taken from this game in terms of map layout, because the map of this game is so different to the rest of the games in the series. It doesn't really use any common features. Death Mountain is in this game, but it's in the southwest, which is very different to almost every other game. I can't think of any other game off the top of my head that's in the southwest. But what I did take from this game is some town names. So we have two towns here. One is the harbor town of Mido, and the other is the mountain town of Darunia. So those are more commonly known as two characters in Ocarina of Time. This is where they started, and I turned that into two settlements. Here, this harbor town in the south, and here, this mountain town in the north. So the geography is not based on Zelda 2, but I did like to reuse those two names for those two towns. And another small reference I have here, in Zelda 2 you go to this cave and you beat Agoria, and you get a trophy to give to someone in the town, and then they give you a magic spell in return. Well, I did something similar where there is a cave somewhere here. It might not be on this map because this map is a bit old. And you get into a cave and you fight Agoria and you get a trophy, but you don't give it to anyone. It just provides you a benefit where you get more HP in this game, in my game. Other than that, nothing else from Zelda 2. King's Tomb here is used, but it's not as part of Hyrule. It's part of the Great Sea. But I did translate some ideas from there, which was a mix with Phantom Hourglass. If I ever do change up the map, it would be nice to put a swamp in. If I have some swamp tiles, maybe I could change the border region to a swamp, and then I would name it after one of the swamps in Zelda 2, Midoro Swamp maybe. Next up we have A Link to the Past, and what I took from this would be this northwestern section, and of course again we have Death Mountain in the north, and actually it's pretty similar to Death Mountain from A Link to the Past, the Death Mountain I made, especially I have Spectacle Rock here, and then the tower is based off the tower from A Link to the Past, and we have Turtle Rock here just to the east of it as well. So yeah, Death Mountain was inspired by A Link to the Past pretty directly too. But the main thing here is I put a forest in the northwest, and this is the forest where you get the Master Sword. In A Link to the Past, that said forest is called the Lost Woods, but I already had a Lost Woods in the southeast, and I decided to call the one in the northwest the Forest of Time, which is a name from Oracle of Ages, which is not in Hyrule, but I wanted my two variations of the Lost Woods. And now we also have in A Link to the Past, we have Hyrule Castle being the center of the map, and that was something else I took. Although I wouldn't say it was inspired directly by A Link to the Past, but by the same kind of design decisions, I put the Hyrule Castle in the center. Also, to the east of Hyrule Castle and the eastmost of the map, we have this, the Eastern Temple, and not very clear here, but that was taken here for the Eastern Temple, one of the early dungeon game, just like it's an early dungeon in A Link to the Past. And that temple itself takes a lot of direct inspiration. Next we have Ocarina of Time, which is always going to be a major influence. So we have Lake Hylia for the first time in this series in the southwest. I think the first time, was it in A Link to the Past? There was a lake in the southeast. Maybe that was Lake Hylia. But anyway, this one is based on Ocarina of Time, Lake Hylia in the southwest, and beside it the Gerudo Desert leading to the westernmost extreme of the map, with Gerudo Canyon there as well. And of course, this is also where I took the Lost Woods from being the east-southeast, kind of southeast, directly east, southeast in Ocarina of Time. And I put my Lost Woods here with the Great Deku Tree and all that jazz. In addition to the Lost Woods, we also have, well, Zora's Domain I didn't put in, Death Mountain again in the north, but the thing I was going to mention is Lon Lon Ranch, which is in the center of Hyrule Field here, and I put it in North Hyrule Field. I used to have it in the south, as an area between south and west, but a pretty long time ago I decided to move it to the north, because the North Hyrule Field, because of this exact tile placement, North Hyrule Field ended up being quite big and quite empty, and so I put in Lon Lon Ranch into North Hyrule Field to fill it up a bit more. Next, we have Four Swords Adventure, which isn't the next in release order, I don't think. Oh, it is actually. Yeah, well, we're skipping over the Wind Waker, which I did use for the Great Sea portion. And the Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, they aren't set in Hyrule. So I guess Four Sword Adventures is the next Hyrule game. And there is not a lot from Four Swords Adventure. A lot of the desert areas I took from Four Sword Adventure, with the pyramid and the Gerudo settlement, and just some of the plot from there as well. But that's off Hyrule to the west. There is more map to the west of Hyrule. And I also took a name of a town. There's a town in Four Swords Adventure called the Village of the Blue Maiden. Honestly, I can't remember where it is on the Four Swords map right now, but I used it for this town I have here. That's a tile for tile recreation, pretty much, the Blue Maiden. Other than that, again, we have the common design themes of Hyrule Castle in the center and Death Mountain in the north. Lake Hylia is in the east for this one, but again, I'm using Ocarina of Time for my Lake Hylia. Next, we have the Minish Cap, and there's not a whole lot for the Minish Cap. I took the Trilby, I think it's Trilby Highlands name, which is this area of the Minish Cap, between the swamp and Hyrule Town. I took that and I made it this region over here, Trilby Highlands. But it's on the opposite side, it's on the wrong side, and honestly it's just a name, just reusing a name to have canon names in there. Other than that, not much really taken from the Minish Cap. Alright, next we have is Twilight Princess, and this was the main idea for Hyrule Castle in the center. So again, it's a common design theme to have Hyrule Castle in the center, but Twilight Princess was the one that made Hyrule Field really big and gave us a South Hyrule Field and a North Hyrule Field, a West and an East. And so that's where I took my design and had a North, South, East and West Hyrule Field. Other than that, see, the Twilight Princess map is mirrored in the GameCube and the Wii game, and I've played so many of both each time I can't remember which is which is West, which is East. I think this is the GameCube one, but or is it the Wii? No, this is the Wii one. But there's Gerudo Deserts on the east of the map on the Wii, while it's on the west, like in Ocarina of Time, on the GameCube. But yeah, there's not much more aside from that central feature from Twilight Princess. And then after Twilight Princess, we jump all the way to Breath of the Wild. Although I will mention just Triforce Heroes, which doesn't take place in Hyrule, but takes place in a place called Hytopia, which is kind of like Discount Hyrule, I guess, which I decided to use for this border fortress. The fortress is a stage in Triforce Heroes, and I refer to this area as the Drablands, which is also from Triforce Heroes. But anyway, our last one is Breath of the Wild, the most recent Zelda game, and I was very happy when the map of Breath of the Wild came out, and it was honestly very similar to my map, because again, Breath of the Wild does the same thing. It takes ideas from all different games in the series, and so we ended up with a south-facing ocean, an east-facing ocean, Hyrule Castle, not quite in the center, but a big Hyrule Field, pretty much in the center though, the desert in the southwest, Death Mountain in the north. They also gave us Hebra Mountain, which was kind of a new idea for the series. We've had icy mountains before, but not as such a big part of the map. Anyway, Breath of the Wild came out quite a bit later in the development of the game. Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. The game began development in 2011. And so this map was pretty much finished by the time Breath of the Wild came out. But Breath of the Wild did give me some more canon names. So I renamed this region Akala, which was originally named after an Oracle of Ages or Oracle of Seasons region. But then I took the eastern region from Breath of the Wild and just threw it onto the name of the region I had already created. And I did something similar with the beach down the south here. So the map ended up being quite similar to Breath of the Wild, but that was not by design, that was by similar kind of inspiration that both me and Nintendo drew from when constructing kind of our ultimate versions of Hyrule, you could say. And that's it, that's my Hyrule, that's where each of the design parts came from. I will also forgot to mention Twilight Princess. I took Orden Village from Twilight Princess and had it in the kind of the south. It's more extreme south than Twilight Princess, but made it southeast here. And this Deku Palace obviously comes from Majora's Mask, which isn't set in Hyrule, but I wanted to have the Dekus in the game. I like the Dekus. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. I hope you play the game. I hope you enjoy exploring my Hyrule. It's quite big, and this isn't even everything that's in the game. There's lots of other realms to visit, and you can visit the Great Sea and the Gerudo Desert and the Twilight Realm. There's lots and lots to see in The Legend of Zelda Winds of Eternity. So, download the game, enjoy playing it, and enjoy exploring Hyrule. Thank you very much.